and other lines of insurance products and services. And Kirk Market. Experience a world of choice. And Automotive Art Cayman. Your car, our passion. And by Dorman Day, celebrating 10 years of opening doors to brighter futures. Visit dormanday.ky.
And now, Radio Cayman presents The Buzz, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local environment. This is where we address the topics that matter. Here's your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning, Cayman, and welcome to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller. We had a bit of a little later start this morning, so thanks for hanging out with us until we got ready for the show. This morning, we are continuing with our interview series in partnership with the Ministry of Health, taking a deep dive into the results of the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey. It's been 2 really good interviews, and today is going to be just as good. So the National Health Survey provides one of the clearest pictures we have of the health of the Cayman Islands, at least when it comes to non-communicable disease. The report highlights several key drivers behind non-communicable diseases, such as heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, and today's focus is on smoking, alcohol use, diet, and obesity. And for those that want to follow along or want further referencing, you can find this report online at gov.ky/steps. This is our third interview in this deep dive. And if you missed some of the key takeaways discussed in the first two, we'll be sharing some of those today as well as some new insights. You can always go to Radio Cayman's YouTube channel to search the past 2 Tuesdays on The Buzz. And if you want to get an in-depth discussion on cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and high cholesterol from week 1, and a discussion on diabetes in week 2, some of those key stats that I was referencing, the one that probably sticks out to me the most is that around 70% of adults in the Cayman Islands are overweight or obese, which is a major risk factor for many chronic diseases. At the same time, the data suggests that many residents are not meeting recommended nutrition and lifestyle guides. I might be one of those people. And why is that? When I know better, I still don't do better. So what are the factors influencing the state of the nation's health? Why aren't we doing better? Taking us through this morning's conversation as we focus on diet, alcohol, smoking, and obesity are Felicia McLean, the Chief Nursing Officer, and Halle Miller, Policy Support Officer within the Ministry of Health, Environment, and Sustainability. So right now, I think the Chief Nursing Officer is just going to sit down. And right now, I just have Halle Miller in the studio with me right now. So, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Welcome to The Buzz. I know we had to sneak Felicia in for a sec. So, hope everybody's doing... Yes, she made it. Hope everybody's doing well. All right, so to give some background, for our listeners just joining the series, what exactly is the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey, and why is it such an important tool for understanding the health of our population?
Sure. So I know you've had 2 sessions already. However, I'll give a quick summary of the survey for those who maybe are not familiar with it or haven't heard about it. So the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey is a survey that is originally designed by the WHO. So it's a standardized approach of looking at the risk factors of NCDs, so non-communicable diseases, within Cayman. And the last time we did the survey was actually, before 2023, was actually in 2012. So sort of in between that time, after 2012, we hadn't really had any nationally representative health data looking at non-communicable diseases. So it was great to reintroduce the survey in 2023. And it's such an important tool because it gives us so much more information on our risk factors, and thus that informs policy and public health programming, which is super important for the health of our nation. The survey was done, it's steps because it's done in 3 steps. So the first step being a questionnaire, which is done with an enumerator. So we sampled 3,300 households. An enumerator visited the household, went through a questionnaire as the first step. On that same visit, step 2 was then done, which is a height and weight measurement, which we then could get BMI from, which we'll touch on later on. And then finally, the third step was a finger prick blood sample. So I believe Rachel and CMO touched on this last week, talking about blood glucose levels and cholesterol levels, which is done in that third step. So that's sort of summary of what steps looked like in 2023.
Did you say 3,300 households?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Kudos to you guys for getting that done. I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but again, the purpose being to have nationally representable data. So it's really important to have that sample size.
Right. So I know you played a big role in the behind the scenes work in helping execute on the survey. And can you tell us a little bit about your role in the process?
Sure. So reflecting on that, steps was a lot of work, but it was highly rewarding. In the lead up to, I guess, the survey design, I assisted with a lot of sort of refining the survey tool to meet our local context, to be relevant. So I also helped with recruitment of the enumerators and the nurses, and assisting with training. There was a lot of training that went into both sides, the enumeration and the nursing side. I also, in terms of rolling the survey out, there was a lot of on the ground work. So obviously you needed some contact points within the ministry to deal with queries. And so I have to say, though, we had an amazing team of supervisors. They were a part of ESO, the Economics and Statistics Office. So shout out to them because they did an amazing job alongside the ministry.
All right. And I know this is just an extra little plug for you because I'm proud of you and knowing you in the past couple of years and how you've come up in your role and whatnot. You've just finished your master's in public health?
Master's in public health, yeah. So I've just returned. I've been in London for a year and I've returned back to the ministry. So it's like full circle. It feels really good to be back.
I think that's awesome. And I think it just shows as well the effort that Cayman puts in education for Caymanians, and look at where you're at now and where you started with your career, and you're back, as you said, full circle. So love to see it, and on such a huge project like the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So you said non-communicable diseases. I have since learned exactly what a non-communicable disease is, but for those who might just be finally tuning into this series, can you explain what that is?
Go ahead.
So non-communicable diseases are typically chronic diseases influenced by a range of factors such as genetic, physiological, environmental factors, behavioral factors. And I think it's important just to make it clear that they're not passed from person to person. So the chronic illnesses such as your respiratory disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, certain cancers. So that's sort of non-communicable diseases.
Okay. Why are we seeing high rates of non-communicable diseases in Cayman? Is that a normal thing?
I mean, truth be told, if we look at other STEP surveys around the world, we can see that this is a common factor in our population today. I think there's been a lot of development. We have a lot of processed foods in our environment. We don't exercise or move as much as we used to in the past. We've got a lot more smoking, tobacco, and just the changes in lifestyle. So, you're seeing that higher prevalence based on a lot of environmental, as she said, factors that are playing in and the lifestyles that we're currently leading. So the good news are there are things that we can do to reduce our risk for these non-communicable diseases.
Yes, but are we going to do them? This is my major question. Well, we hope so, because this is why we have this information and we're trying to learn so we can just do better. Mm-hmm. I know that last time you were here in the first interview series, Felicia, you were talking about the multiple risk factors. Mm-hmm. And so there's some multiple risk factors that do lead to non-communicable diseases. What were the top 5 identified in Cayman?
It's identified in Cayman, but it's a top 5 no-brainers. Okay. I just like to use my finger, my hand, and I'm a very visual person. And I think of there are these 5 things. We have knowing, being active is one of the key ones that we want to do. Inactivity is a huge risk factor. Like as mentioned just now, not exercising enough, not burning calories, sweating, those things continue to keep toxins in our body. So that's one for sure. The second one is obviously, as you mentioned, an unhealthy diet as well. So if we're not eating well, that's going to trigger in there. If we do have high blood pressure, or we do have diabetes and we know those numbers and we're not treating it, that will be another risk factor that will increase your chances for the non-communicable diseases or more non-communicable diseases, because you can have high blood pressure with diabetes, with chronic kidney, like it can lead to each other. Yeah. We also have to look at alcohol intake, and this is a big one and we'll talk later about it, but that's a huge one. And then last but not least, tobacco, smoking, even vaping has an effect on these non-communicable diseases and our risk factors for getting them.
So for all our listeners, if you know that you're not being active at all, if you know that you regularly consume alcohol or you smoke, your diet's just not the best. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep. These are all huge risk factors
Correct.
as to you will likely, not guaranteed, but likely to develop a non-communicable disease.
It definitely increases your chances of getting it, and so when you think about you wash your hands to, not pass germs along and to stay healthy, well, these 5 things are things you can do to reduce your chance of contacting it. So why would you not try to at least, incorporate them into your lifestyle?
So the big question for today, yes. All right, we're going to go to our first commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to get into some of the findings in that survey.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
Edred Samuel Jr. Ebanks, 1923-1991. Junior Ebanks was born in Cuba to Caymanian parents who had moved there prior to his birth. The family lived in Cuba for a short time, and at an early age, Junior returned to the Cayman Islands. At age 5, he was afflicted with polio, which caused him to be removed from school and left him permanently deaf. With only 6 months of formal education, Junior was taught at home by his mother, Mrs. Selverine Ebanks, who gave him the basic skills. Being self-sufficient, Junior taught himself photography and was probably Cayman's first local photographer. He built a small one-man photography business and could always be found in different districts, capturing the history of families and events. He was employed by the Cayman Islands government as caretaker of the old airport and remained in that post until his retirement in the early 1980s. He also ran a general store that supplied many of the local community's needs. Through photography, he preserved many memories for countless Caymanian families.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Saturday, April 18th, will be the gathering of the future. The gathering of budding scientists, budding botanists, budding engineers, budding medical specialists, marine biologists, systems architects, and much, much more. The Rotary Central Dr. Bill Rudy Science Fair will be at the Arc Commander Bay, 8 a.m. to 12 noon. The gathering of the future. Students from over 15 schools across Cayman. Save the date, April 18th. The Rotary Central Dr. Bill Rudy Science Fair, sponsored by CUC, supported by the Cayman Motor Federation. Sign up today. RotaryScienceFair.ky. The future is sparking.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
Ready to launch your career in hospitality?
If you're an ambitious young Caymanian, the DART Hospitality Training Program is your opportunity to shine.
This paid 4-month program gives you hands-on experience at world-class properties like Kimpton Seafire, the Ritz-Carlton, Hotel Indigo, Hampton by Hilton, and Bonnie Moon Beach Club.
Plus, DART has partnered with Lynn University to deliver an intensive 2-week hospitality curriculum from an accredited institution.
Gain real-world experience, learn from the industry leaders leaders and open doors to full-time careers in hospitality.
Applications close April 6, 2026, with programs starting May 2026.
Apply now at dart.ky/hospitality.
By now, you should know that the use of tobacco and alcohol are determinants of ill health, meaning that they negatively influence health outcomes for users. Yet 13% of Cayman's population are current smokers, and 9.9% of the population drink daily.
The STEPS 2023 National Health Survey gives us information on the prevalence of risk factors for non-communicable diseases. Your health matters. Let's step into Wellness Cayman. Learn more by logging on to gov.ky/steps.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Got something on your mind that you want to share?
You can send a text,
send a voice note,
or even request a song. Go on, give it a try. Message us at 925-3261 on WhatsApp today and get active with Radio Cayman. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram,
#Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and we are talking about the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey. And in studio with me, I have Chief Nursing Officer Felicia McLean, and I have Policy Support Officer from the Ministry of Health. We have Halle Miller, and they gave us a bit of an introduction to what exactly we're dealing with in the 2023 STEPS National Health Survey. And we got a bit of an explanation of what non-communicable diseases are. And one of the striking findings in the report is that only about 2.8% of our population has no major risk factors for non-communicable diseases, meaning that they're likely to not develop these diseases at all. That's just 2.8% of the population. What does that tell us about the state of public health in Cayman?
It basically tells us that population-wide, this is a challenge. This is something we're concerned about. We have a very high vulnerability to contracting an NCD because our risk factors are all there. That the percentage is really, really low. People who don't have it at all, as you mentioned, and so we want to, as a nation, take heed to this warning that it's not just a pocket of people. It's not just this set of people. It's everyone. So from a public health standpoint, it affects us all, and we want to acknowledge that fact. I mean, so it is a key thing that only 2.8% of people currently are living a life that would not put them at risk for it. That's just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm kind of like, we're almost all heading towards disease, guys. That's a striking number right there.
Yeah. It also shares a little bit about the fact that it's our shared environment, our social, our lifestyles. It's everything in every area. It's not even like a one pocket, well, we just do this for this group of people. It's something that we as a nation need to address.
Yes. And that's a key thing right there. It's not an easy fix per se, but it's fixable.
Yeah, well, thanks to those 5-finger things, remember? I mean, I can watch what I eat. I can try to exercise more. I can limit my alcohol. I can stop smoking altogether. And if I do, even if I don't have high blood pressure or diabetes, I should know my numbers because I want to know whether I'm pre-diabetic or pre-hypertensive in that regards. Are there things I should be watching out for? Am I with high levels of cholesterol? So there are things we should be knowing even if we're not, so that we are more aware of our health.
With the report having been ready for just over a year now, how has the data and information shaped the ministry's priorities when it comes to addressing the nation's health?
So the biggest one is still pending, but it is coming, and I know our ministry is working hard at it, which is our national health strategy. The STEPS data is a huge information tool to let us know what we want to put in our next 10-year policy in regards to the health of the population across the board. And so it is forming our national health strategy. And then from there, the ministry does have 2 smaller things up their sleeves. And I say smaller, but they're not. They're just coming sooner. And you'll hear more about it over the next 2 weeks. But, one is our the heart's program, which is a PAHO heart program, which is a way to treat high blood pressure affordably with good access to care. And it's been proven in over 33 countries already to work as a method of managing high blood pressure. And then the second one is our National Movement Challenge, which is coming. It's a step into wellness. So the STEP survey has now launched into Step into Wellness. And you'll hear more about that coming soon. The official big launches of it, there's like a soft launch. And the first thing we're addressing is inactivity with a National Movement Challenge. Call it Move It Cayman.
All right. Well, we have soft launched the Move It Cayman campaign on Radio Cayman as of this week.
Yes, I know.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see things coming out of it because it is a really big project.
It is.
And I know a lot of people are like, we get this data, we get these reports, but what do we do with it?
Mm-hmm.
But we're seeing right now what the ministry is doing with it, which is a great thing. How closely are lifestyle behaviors, which, we kind of touched on, like the smoking, alcohol use, diet, and physical inactivity, linked to rise in diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease?
Yeah, very closely linked. As we mentioned, these 5 things. When people are less active, when they have poor diets, when they use a lot of tobacco, it's going to affect our general health. It does play an effect in our bodies, in how they operate and how they work. And so we'll see the chronic diseases coming into play and having that huge impact on people's quality of life.
All right. Well, our focus today, it's going to be about tobacco use, it's going to be about diet, alcohol use, and obesity. So we're going to start with tobacco. The report revealed that 12.5% of the population are current smokers. From a public health perspective, why is smoking still considered one of the most dangerous lifestyle risk factors?
Let me take it. So basically, the harmful chemicals in tobacco and smoking. I mean, we know from WHO that it has, tons of chemicals within that that are carcinogenic, so cancer forming. And it's something that we're inhaling into our lungs. So obviously lung cancer is one of those that come out of the air that speak off the back, but it also constricts blood vessels and causes other conditions within the body as well. And so tobacco use continues to kill over 7 million people in worldwide. So we know for sure that this is still something we don't want to have in our bodies. So tobacco is bad. Believe it or not, it is bad.
I agree with you. I don't disagree with you on that one at all. I absolutely agree with you. What did this survey reveal about tobacco use in Cayman, particularly among younger adults?
Yeah, so we saw that 12.5%, as you mentioned, of the population were current smokers. And in the survey, this was defined as smoking within the past 30 days. We did find it was higher among men at 18%, and among women it was 6.7%. So there's a little bit of a disparity there. When we're looking at, in terms of age, the mean age of initiation of smoking was 20 years, so quite young. And we saw that with the sort of the current smokers, 55% were smoking daily, but also 55% of those tried to stop within the last year. And again, we also see that with vaping, which we'll come on to, we'll go into sort of the disparity between men and women in age there as well. But I think also just to highlight here, only 28% of those smokers were advised to stop by a healthcare worker within the past year. So it's 28% of people actually being advised to stop smoking.
Of the 55% that tried to quit, only 28% of them were advised to stop.
Recommended by a doctor.
I would have thought that all 55% would have been recommended to stop. That's just my assumption.
I mean, I'm going to be, the bad person here, but I mean, I remember going to nursing school and having nurses and doctors that went outside to take their lunch break to smoke.
Yeah.
So you imagine if you get a healthcare professional, potentially, I'm not saying that it's a good thing or whatever, but this is just Felicia's, McLean's version of looking at something and saying, you might not have someone as strongly saying you should stop if that's also something they're still indulging in.
That's a great point. That's a really, really great point. We all know that I do the same. I might advise something and I'm not following that same advice right there. We got to go to the 8 a.m. news right now, but when we come back, we're going to go a lot heavier into the details when it comes to tobacco use in the Cayman Islands. As well, we're going to get into the alcohol use in the Cayman Islands. We're going to talk about diet and obesity. That'll be just after the 8 a.m. news at 8:15.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. The next phase of the East-West Arterial Expansion Project is expected to start in September.
The East-West Arterial Road remains a priority infrastructure project aiming at improving the connectivity and the traffic flow and the long-term resilience between the central and eastern districts.
Infrastructure Minister the Honourable J.E. Banks told MPs in Parliament the National Roads Authority is on track to start survey work in April, with a final gazette being presented to Cabinet, quote, shortly in anticipation of work starting in September. When asked if there was money for the road,
there is money in the budget to carry us for what we think is the first part of the most crucial part of the road, which is to get us at least to Lookout, I would say close to Lookout Gardens, and we within the 2-year cycle. And the Minister of Finance has also told us that there's money in the infrastructure account that we will be able to access to also for the building of this road.
The extension is expected to tackle the increasing traffic congestion to and from the eastern districts. You can read the final east-west arterial environmental statement online at caymanroads.com. Government says worsening erosion along the southern end of 7 Mile Beach is a major concern, putting pressure on public access, tourism, and nearby properties.
The most advanced interventions designed to address the beach erosion on the southern end of 7 Mile Beach are being led by responsible and innovative private sector stakeholders, supported and facilitated by government through our established regulatory and technical review processes.
Responding to a parliamentary question, Environment Minister the Honourable Catherine Ebanks-Wilkes says one of those plans would see new sand and small offshore structures added in front of the Marriott property. There is a similar renourishment proposal in the works further up the beach. She says Cabinet is now weighing options on how to pay for long-term maintenance of any restored shoreline.
We're going to have to plan for the future because it will happen again, as we see with climate change and as there's construction continuing to take place. We will need to plan and prepare to have mechanisms in place for the maintenance of the beach. So we are talking about looking at the different types of tax, whether it's on a hotel, the stay overnight, or if it's on the departure tax.
In the interim, she says government has already waived coastal work royalties on upcoming restoration projects and expects to confirm any new tourism fee by the end of the second quarter. Parliament is set to resume today at 10 a.m. Make sure to head to our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM, to hear proceedings live. In other news, more police evidence has been heard in Grand Court in the murder trial of Demecio Frederick, who denies killing his uncle Christopher Johnson on New Year's Eve 2024. Radio Cayman's Jeffy Ebanks gives us a recap of this week's trial.
The court heard from an HSA DNA expert regarding samples collected at the scene as deputy directors of public prosecution continued presenting their case against Demecio Frederick. On Monday, the jury heard more testimony from officers involved in the investigation. A police constable described her role guarding the cordon area around the body and recording who entered, whether they wore PPE, and the times they did so. She acknowledged that 2 senior officers entered without PPE and that she herself was not wearing gloves, but said the scene was busy and the procedures were followed as closely as possible. The defense challenged the accuracy of the scenes of crime log, suggesting delays in proper documentation. The officer denied this, saying she began note-taking once assigned to the cordon area and until it was declared no longer active. The trial continues in the main court building at 10 a.m. Jeffy Ebanks, Radio Cayman News.
Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which takes us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller.
BBC News with Charles Carroll. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have dismissed President Trump's suggestion that the US and Israeli war with Iran is almost complete, saying it will be them, not the Americans, who determine the end of hostilities. Tehran has fired more drones and missiles at its Gulf neighbours. Mr. Trump had acknowledged that the conflict would not end this week. The world's biggest producer of crude oil says it's absolutely critical that shipping resumes in the Strait of Hormuz, warning of catastrophic consequences if it remains blocked. The CEO of Saudi Aramco said the longer the disruption went on, the more drastic the global consequences would be. BBC News.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman with the latest up-to-date, accurate news and information. For your convenience, the headline news will be repeated on our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM, weekdays at 8:30 a.m. Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or download the Radio Cayman app in the App Store or log on to www.radiocayman.gov.ky and stay connected to what's happening in the community. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Cayman, it's time to move. 20% of Cayman's population are not meeting the World Health Organization recommended minimum of 150 minutes of physical activity per week for adults ages 18 to 69. That is just 20 minutes a day. The STEPS 2023 National Health Survey gives us information on the prevalence of risk factors for non-communicable diseases, and movement impacts them all. Your health matters. Let's step into Wellness Cayman. Learn more by logging on to gov.ky/steps.
K-Fest 2026 is in full swing, celebrating poetry, film, dance, concerts, visual arts, and so much more. Follow Cayman Culture Socials to see it all. It all culminates on Saturday, March 21st with Red Sky at Night, happening at the Harkwell Theatre grounds, featuring local art, crafts, live music, dance, storytelling, interactive activities, and more. It's an event for the whole family. Pre-sale tickets are just $10 adults and $5 for children. Visit ticketsplus.ky to secure yours today. Red Sky at Night, the grand finale at K-Fest 2026.
Sponsored by Ministry of Culture, Camana Bay, Coca-Cola, Webster's Tours, What's On, and Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. weather update brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
Pleasant good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 80 degrees. Relative humidity is 86%. The barometric pressure is 30.05 inches and rising. The wind is out of the northeast at 5 knots. Overnight low temperature was 77 degrees. Synopsis indicate light to moderate winds with slight to moderate seas are expected across the Cayman area as the ridge of high pressure lingers over the northwest Caribbean. Some isolated showers are possible due to low-level moisture and upper-level trough over the Cayman area. Radar imagery show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area moving southwest. Now the forecast for today calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers, and temperatures will rise near the mid to upper 80s with a heat index near 92 degrees Fahrenheit. Your winds will be east to northeast at 10 to 15 knots and seas slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers and temperatures falling to the mid-70s tonight. Your winds will be east to northeast at 5 to 10 knots and seas slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet as well. Today's low tide will be this morning at 11:20, high tide this afternoon at 3 minutes past 2, and a low tide again tonight at 9:13. The sun will set this evening at 6:32 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:37. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Thursday.
Aunt Angie, how does it feel to have broken the bull riding world record?
Sore, Sean. That bull was angry.
Angie, I think that bull is headed towards your red convertible.
I broke the world record and he broke my car. Oh well, at least I've got CG Comprehensive Motor to cover this.
Get covered for collision, damage, and more. CG Britcay. Good like that. All benefits are subject to policy provisions, including eligibility at the time of service.
The 8 a.m. weather update brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman, Delano Hislop Pace, 5K and 10K Walk Run is back on April 12th. Whether you're trying to stay a bit fitter, looking to invest more time in your community, or just looking for a reason to get out in the sun, the Delano Hislop Walk Run is the perfect opportunity to keep your goals in check. Visit the Lions Club Facebook page for registration details. The 2026 Delano Hislop Pace Walk Run, Sunday, April 12th. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman, proudly serving the community for over 50 years.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Enjoy a delicious start to your day with breakfast from Subway.
Top of the morning, let's check in with traffic, see what's slowing and what's flowing. Coming from the east, bumper-to-bumper traffic and steady traffic on Shamrock Road and bumper-to-bumper traffic on Linford Pearson Highway, slow-moving traffic on Crew Road heading to Georgetown. Heading east on Crew Road, traffic is swiftly moving along as we look to downtown Georgetown on Edward Street, flowing nicely. And into Georgetown, moderate flow of traffic. Steady traffic coming off of Bobby Thompson Way and also off of the Linford Pearson Highway on Agnes Way. Slight delays expected. On the Westway Road in front of the Ritz, traffic is moving on pretty good in both directions. From the Westway four-way stop, expect moderate flow of traffic. Coming off of the Esterly Tibbetts Highway, traffic is moving at a moderate pace. Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue flowing pretty good in both directions. That's what's happening on your roads. Join us again at about 10 minutes past 12. We'll give you another look at traffic.
Craving something new? Dive into Subway's new seafood subs. 3 recipes inspired by the flavors of the coast, including the crunchy seafood bliss, the scrumptious chipotle tuna crunch, and the delicious breaded fish and ranch sub, made with our new breaded fish nuggets. Subway's new seafood subs. 3 recipes made to rock the boat. Only at Subway.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Enjoy a delicious start to your day with breakfast from Subway.
50 years of Cayman's Voice, the People's Station. Strong, dedicated, committed, where every story belongs. News, music, community events, and talk shows lighting the way. From Grand Cayman shores to the Brac standing tall. Little Cayman's heartbeat, we're here for them all. Radio Cayman, 50 years we stand. One people, 3 islands, broadcasting boldly into the future.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and we are talking about the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey. In studio with me this morning, I have Chief Nursing Officer Felicia McLean. I have Policy Support Officer from the Ministry of Health, Halle Miller, and also joining us from the Ministry of Health, Policy Support Officer is Novian McLean Gregory. She's just joining us in this segment as well. So good morning to Novian. How are you doing?
Doing good, thank you.
All right, we got to bring the mic a little down for you.
Thank you.
There we go. You're welcome. So we're talking about tobacco now. So to all our listeners who might just be tuning in, you can follow the data, the report. You can go to gov.ky/steps. You can find the report there and you can get all the information that we're talking about there, but to listen now when we focus on tobacco. So we started saying that we know that about 12.5% of the population are current smokers. And then we also kind of broke down that tobacco use in younger adults is pretty prevalent. We know that 55% of adults, at least when the survey was done in 2023, it was completed in 2023, in the year prior to that, of the 55% of people tried to quit smoking, right? So we know that there's a motivation for people to quit smoking. I can't remember the exact percentage, Halle, that you shared with us. 55%?
Tried to quit, and 55% smoke daily.
Smoke daily as well, okay. And then there was that recommended percentage of people who should quit. Do you have that, I think?
With the healthcare workers?
Yeah.
28% had been advised to stop by a healthcare worker within the past year.
Okay, all right. So we know that tobacco use is a pretty strong thing here. And the report also breaks down different formats of tobacco consumption. So from manufactured cigarettes to hand-rolled cigars to pipes and shisha. This might sound like a crazy question to you, but is any one method of smoking healthier than others, if we can even call it healthy?
No, sorry to break everyone's bubble, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but there is no form of smoking that is healthier than another. Every type of tobacco you use has the risk of, for you smoke, and it's manufactured. So yeah, there's none. And basically the chemicals that are in tobacco are continuing to be harmful no matter which form you take it in. It's still unhealthy for you, and it does increase your risk for non-communicable diseases, as we mentioned. And so all forms of tobacco are harmful, and there is no safe exposure, and that's based on WHO.
Okay.
World Health Organization says none are safe for you.
Okay. And you might have to clear this for me or clarify it for me a little bit. There's an e-cigarette and there's a vape. Are they the same thing? Are they a little different? Do you know?
I think sometimes the word is used interchangeably. An e-cigarette, a vape, but in essence, it's still a vaping device. It's still vaporizing rather than burning tobacco.
Okay, gotcha. But now, you made another key point there. So I don't understand a lot about vaping, and I realized this yesterday when I was reading a little bit about it. So vaping doesn't use tobacco. I thought it did. Just don't laugh at me out there. So were vapes included in the tobacco use stats?
Yeah, so this was actually something in 2023 that we thought was very important to add vaping, considering that it has been a health concern on the rise, and it's very popular, specifically among the youth as well. So we actually included it in 2023 to look at who are current vapers, and also we looked at the age, and we also looked at the among men and women. So in terms of vaping, we found that 8.4% of the population reported currently vaping, and of those, 59% report vaping daily. So a high proportion of current vapers are vaping on a daily basis. The prevalence is higher among men at 11% than it is among women at 5.9%. And the highest prevalence overall with vaping is in males 18 to 44 at 16%. So that younger male population.
Okay, and again, we know that age of being kind of introduced, starting to that smoking habit forming is around 20 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, which coincides with the younger adults being more heavily involved in vaping.
Yeah, it's basically showing that traditionally, people did cigarettes and used that, but vaping is emerging strongly among our younger adults, and it's something that we can't ignore because vaping also has its risks for our overall health and non-communicable diseases.
Is there a reason why vaping is just that much more, I guess, attractive to smokers?
You mean beside the fact that it's flavored like cotton candy and you name it? For the most part, I think people, when vapes came out, e-cigarettes, as I was talking to you during the break, it was meant for people who were addicted to smoking because tobacco is very addictive. And so to help people who were struggling, they were putting on the patch, they were chewing the gum, and they weren't quite beating the habit, and maybe they already had a non-communicable disease and smoking was only making it worse, and they really need to quit. This was a better alternative. It wasn't that it's safer and it has no harmful effects. It was just less than the tobacco, but still bad for you, still not good for you. And so people took it up thinking this is better, and people who maybe never, like our younger people who maybe never smoked, went straight to vaping because in their minds, I'm not going to take the tobacco, it's not as bad, I'm going to do the vaping. But vaping has nicotine in it, and so is similarly harmful to your body, and it's, as we said, aerosol, so you're breathing into your lungs, which is similarly harmful for your body. Vaping puts harmful chemicals in your lungs. Most vapes contain nicotine, which is highly addictive. Vaping can be harmful to brain development. Vaping causes lung damage and breathing problems. It increases the risk of using cigarettes later if you couldn't get it because it's still addictive and you want that kind of fix. And we still don't yet know all the long-term potential harmful things that could come from long-term use of vaping because we're still studying those things. So long story short, I think people are picking it up because they thought it was better, not recognizing it was still harmful for them.
Yeah.
I mean, you touched on something big, which was vaping has been linked to brain development issues in adolescence. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can touch on that a little bit more.
It's not really my specialty. I did my research as well a little bit more, but it does affect, learning, emotional regulation, and then long-term brain development. I mean, we know that our brains are continuing to develop for sure up until age 21. We figure between 21 and 25, we're finally fully developed. And if you think about putting things that are constricting the blood vessels within our bodies because this is what they do, or they're making us more anxious, more fearful, whatever that effect is that you get from it, it's going to affect our ability to learn how our brain functions. And so we know we don't want to be having that with our younger people for sure. It's not good.
I think that's such an important point because for most of us who are trying to have kind of optimal brain health and be the best that we can be, once you know that you're taking something or putting something in your body, consuming something that is going to slow your development in any way, to me, the easy choice would be a no. Don't do it, right? But then, those addictive qualities are...
It's very, very addictive. Nicotine is very, very addictive.
Very powerful. Are we seeing changes in behavior with vaping and e-cigarettes, especially amongst the younger demographics?
I mean, I don't know if we have enough data on that.
I think that's something in 10 years or in less than 10 years when we repeat the survey to definitely look at around to see how that's trending, because obviously now there's more and more research coming out, people are more engaged in, okay, we were so unsure of the effects of vaping. We still are to an extent, but there's more information coming out. But I just think in terms of the accessibility of a vape, when you think about how accessible, you walk into a gas station, there's like tons of vapes, the colors, mention the flavors. They're just so accessible and in your face in a sense. So I think that is definitely concerning, and also the addictive nature. And I think another aspect of it to consider is when you think of a cigarette, you have to light a cigarette. You smell a cigarette, it's more forcing someone to go in a smoking zone or a smoking area to smoke. Whereas vaping, a lot of people sort of think, okay, well, I can conceal this because it's not, you're not actually like lighting a lighter and burning something. So I think that's another aspect that is a bit worrying. However, now you'll see like in restaurants and in public spaces, they'll have a non-smoking sign, but they'll also add no vaping, which is useful.
So, okay, now this is interesting to me. Can you get secondhand smoke from vaping?
Yep. Yes, you can. Just like you can with tobacco smoke. So it's again the same chemicals that someone that's vaping is inhaling. As a secondhand smoker, you're also exposed to the aerosols. So you're also able to, ingest those harmful chemicals.
Okay, so I didn't know that you could get secondhand smoke from vaping as well. And I think the report touched on some data when it comes to secondhand smoke, that people in the workplace were being exposed to secondhand smoke.
Yeah, so we don't have secondhand vape exposure, but we did look at secondhand tobacco exposure. So we found that 7.3% report exposure in their homes, and 9.5% report exposure at work, which is a bit concerning considering that smoking is banned in public spaces. So for 9.4% of the population to be reporting exposure at work, that's a bit of a concerning issue there. When we say smoking is banned in public spaces, there's like smoking designated areas. We're allowed to do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of places still have them. You see it in the airports when you're traveling. You'll see areas outside of workplaces where people tend to gather and smoke, because you kind of know the areas. It's usually outdoors somewhere, and you don't see as many signs around as you did, I think, for a while around not smoking inside. But it's kind of like the norm now that you don't smoke inside places. That most places have that rule that you're not allowed to smoke, and so people tend to not smoke inside. But you'll see them outside by the bars. In the open areas, and that's where they tend to smoke, and that's where you get more of that secondhand. And in regards to at the workplace, I found that interesting as well, because you're not allowed to smoke in the building unless you're going to where they're having lunch outdoors somewhere. I'm not quite sure, but that's what they reported, so it was interesting.
Yeah, it was curious to me. That's where I was like, okay, so how exactly are they getting exposed? It'd be interesting to find that out more somehow. Yeah. And it's wild, because when you think about the 80s, some of you weren't born, and until maybe later, but you could smoke on airplanes.
Yeah.
And I remember those days, and it was the wildest thing in the world. Could you imagine, like, half the airplane smoking? It's wild to me. Okay, so Halle, you also brought up a really good point, and so did you, Felicia, when it comes to the marketing and branding that is happening on the vapes towards, it's clearly going to younger generations, because, this is cartoonish packaging. I'm an adult. I'm not attracted to cartoonish packaging. So we know that they're being designed to appeal to children and teens. What kind of message is that sending?
In short, not a good one. Not a good one at all. It's saying that the manufacturers, for better or for worse, really don't care. It's just about selling a product because it's not good. While I can't say that adult doesn't want a bubblegum flavored vape, I think a kid who is used to chewing bubblegum and thinking that's good, it's going to be appealing to them. The colors, adults are not as, we don't need it neon, we don't need it bright purple, but that's what they're creating it because it makes it seem, in my opinion, it makes it seem more accessible for that age group that's going to be like, this is cool, this looks nice, I'm carrying this, fancy, cool little thing around with me. And so anyway, it's just not good, honestly. Not good at all.
I'm in marketing, so I understand when it comes to packaging. I'm drawn to packaging, so I know exactly what it does. So it's very interesting to me, and I think
it even catches your eye.
Changes.
Like if it's behind the gas station, you're checking out, you see the colors. You've got the blue and the pink, bubblegum wrapper thing here, and then you got blue and pink behind there, but it's a vape. So, it is eye-catching, and it's familiar to what they're used to.
It's the familiarity. Yeah, absolutely. I feel you on that. Another interesting point in the tobacco use was that 11% of respondents smoke shisha. And that to me suggests smoking influenced by social gatherings. So for people who might not know what shisha is, when you've heard of hookahs or you go to a party or event, a bar, a nightclub, anything like that, a lot of the time you can find that now you can just rent these hookahs or shishas from, there's like a little event table. You can actually rent these now at parties, very common in bars and clubs and other event spaces. So in saying that, if 11% of respondents smokes shisha, that to me is suggesting that number can go down because it's introduced in very social gathering places. So I don't know anybody who has a hookah at home. I just don't know anybody who has that or invites people over to smoke hookah. I don't know. I've never heard of that. That's not a common thing, at least on this side of the world. So shisha is reportedly more toxic than cigarettes with 100 to 200 times the volume of a cigarette's worth of smoke. Now, for people who don't smoke at all but might go to a bar and have some shisha, they're literally having 100 to 200 times more the smoke volume. That's crazy to me because you think, oh, this is just nothing. I indulge in this, maybe once a week or once a month when I go out or something, but it's actually extremely harmful. How much of social pressure of social settings influence a person's tendency to smoke?
I mean, this is not my area, but I would take a guess at it and just say it has a huge effect in that. I know within the school age population, if that's what the friends are doing, then there's that peer pressure that you do it as well, and that's just the story of life. There's peer pressure for everything. It's no different for smoking. If you're in a crowd and 3 of your friends are smoking, you're going to feel pressure to want to smoke with them as well, or at least give it a try to not seem like the person on the outside or the person that doesn't do it. So for sure, that's going to play an effect. And in regards to adults, you're just socializing, you're hanging, it's not as much in my mind peer pressure, but just like you said, socialization. This is what we're doing. We're hanging. It's in thing, and people just do it. So there's probably a huge amount of socialization influence that happens that would encourage you to do so or not do so. If you're in a group of people who don't smoke at all, you're less likely to pick it up, or you'll be like, excuse me, I'm going to go away because I don't want to be that person smoking around everyone else who doesn't smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
have the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to drive and people would try to light up a cigarette in my car. Oh, no. You got to walk.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But it's interesting when I brought up the point about shisha because I see vapes being targeted for younger generations and shisha's almost for adults, for young adults now.
I really,
to me.
I've not even heard about it. I had to, like I was telling Kathy, I was like, go Google it a bit. And I'm like, I don't know what that is because thankfully I don't smoke. And so I don't know. But for those 11% that are in there, that's what they're doing. It's interesting. Yeah. And we want to hope that this education will help remind people that it is that much more harmful to you. It isn't just the cool thing to do when you're out and about. It's just as harmful. So don't do that either if you can.
It is just as harmful. And they do have flavored shisha as well. To appeal. Yeah, they do.
I guess it's so shareable as well because you're just pass. You don't have a singular device it's just a pass.
Yeah.
So it's so again accessible for someone to share.
Right, which is you rarely share your glass with somebody. Yeah. Never mind a shisha with 10 other people in a group. We're not trying to get into that right there. Okay. So is there any other misconceptions people might have about vaping or smoking? I know with vaping, mine used to be that it was a way cleaner way for somebody to smoke. Felicia has debunked that for me for sure. But is there any other misconceptions people have?
No, I think in joke, in summary around that is that we need to just remember, as you just said, it is not. It may be healthier than tobacco, but it doesn't mean it's healthy for you. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to be having anyone take it for sure, and definitely not our younger population. That I was trying to get it, but I haven't seen a response. NDC, the National Drug Council, did a survey as well within the school, and they asked about vaping as well. And that was another alarming factor in regards to how many of our young people are into that. And as us as parents, if we are indulging in vaping, our kids may see it as less harmful as well, and then be that much more likely to indulge in it. So we do want to educate the population that you can still have the same harmful effects for your health and also for their developmental stages. So we need to be mindful of that.
That report, I believe, is on the National Drug Council website. It is available, and it's a really, really good one. It's a really eye-opening one, especially what's going on in the youth when it comes to drug and alcohol use and smoking and all the rest. Okay, so the report highlights overall smoking has gone down from 15% in 2012 to 12.5% in 2023. However, the introduction of 8.4% of the population now vaping, the smoking population has actually gone up. So to quote the report, the risk to the population's health from tobacco or nicotine products has in fact increased over the last decade. Is vaping becoming more and more of a problem?
I mean, I'd have to say yes, because we don't fully understand it, and what we do know, it's not good. And we saw earlier in one of the study results as well that people are switching from one to the other. And based on the packaging that we spoke about earlier, based on the social triggers as well as the peer pressure, I think it's safe to say that it is on the rise of becoming a more major problem for us to deal with. And also because there's been so much lack of education around it. I mean, we have more misconception about vaping than we'd want. And so we're trying to pedal it backwards and do the education and help us all to understand as a country what vapes actually do towards your health, and hopefully changing that storyline on it so people are more aware. I think we have a really smart next generation. I mean, I've seen them, doing more things than, eating healthier, not drinking as much, mocktails are becoming more cool. And I think that generation, if you give them the knowledge, they'll make informed decisions, but it's about informing our public so they can make better choices.
All right. I got a couple more questions when it comes to tobacco. From a medical standpoint, how quickly does smoking begin to damage the cardiovascular system and lungs? If you can answer that.
From the very first start, at the end of the day, it affects the heart, the blood vessels, the lungs, and it happens much faster than people realize. Not saying if you take one smoke that you're going to end up with high blood pressure or cardiovascular disease. However, because we know they have addictive natures in them, it's going to draw you to it more and more. And the more that you smoke, the risk factors are going to continue to increase. So it's going to damage your blood vessels. It's going to interfere with oxygen delivery. It's going to alter blood chemistry. It's going to increase inflammation and clotting tendencies. So don't pick it up at all if you've never picked it up. And if you have picked it up, I encourage you to get in touch with the HSA. They do a smoking cessation class. And coming up from our STEP survey, there's going to be some other tools that Novian's been working on in regards to lifestyle changes that will help people reduce their need for cigarettes, and i.e. then vaping as well. But yeah, you don't pick it up at all. The very first one it's the step on that slippery slope. You may not be right there in the sense that I'm terribly ill, but it's that step towards the wrong direction.
I feel you. Don't let it catch momentum. Stop it right away. All right. So my last question towards smoking before we go to the commercial break. If 19 or 20 is being the average age when people begin smoking, is the ministry looking at preventative programs leading up to those ages?
Yeah, so that goes back to that NDC study. So I know the National Council, and I can't speak much of it, but I know that NDC is looking at rolling out some campaigns related to vaping and smoking again and targeting that younger generation as well. So we are in support of our department, NCD, doing something, and they are looking into it, as well as I think we're looking at our tobacco law as well. And so there are things that we're in the works. Don't have much more than that right now for you, but there are things in the works.
Okay, no problem. Good to know. So after the break, we're going to be talking about alcohol use in the Cayman Islands. And I'm going to celebrate myself and say this past month, your girl actually has just celebrated 5 years of being alcohol free. So I'm part of that lifestyle change. Toot, toot, toot. It was an easy road. I know it's not an easy road for everybody else out there, but we're going to talk about just how alcohol consumption in Cayman impacts the nation's health.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's Home Loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymanational.com today.
Whether you're walking, running, cycling, playing outdoors, doing household chores, or basically any job requiring physical labor is movement. Staying active is known to benefit both physical and mental health and is a key contributor to longevity of life. On Sunday, March 29th, the Cayman Islands government will be launching Move It Cayman, the National Movement Challenge. Your health matters. Let's step into Wellness Cayman. Learn more by logging on to gov.ky/Move It Cayman.
The 7:20 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Credit Union. On the road to 50 years of serving our members. Visit creditunion.ky to join today.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and we are talking about the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey. In studio with me, I have Chief Nursing Officer Felicia McLean. From the Ministry of Health, we have Policy Support Officer Halle Miller and also Novian McLean Gregory. We are now turning to alcohol. So 55% of the population are current drinkers. I'm just going to step in and say I feel that it's like 85%, and I feel that that number is very underrepresentative of what's going on in Cayman. But hey, it's how people answer the survey. So according to the survey, 55% of the population are current drinkers. Alcohol is socially accepted and culturally embedded in many societies. From a public health perspective, where does moderate consumption end and risk begin?
I just want to go back to one thing before. When you say the 55%, we did recognize that as a potential, not flaw, that's not the right word, but,
Underreporting.
Yeah.
That people would be like, well, no, I don't do that. Or maybe it's just once for the year. So it's not really, it doesn't really count. So there is some of that.
A little bias
in this regards to reporting. just saying.
I think from our experience and what we see, we're kind of like, so I feel you on that. Yes. Yeah. So the moderate consumption, where does that end and where does risk begin?
So,
go ahead.
Okay. I think when it comes to alcohol consumption, the quantity and the frequency is where the biggest health impact will be. So we actually looked at, we asked individuals how often they drank 6 or more drinks on one occasion, which would be defined as either happy episodic drinking or binge drinking. Yeah. So that really is where, within the survey, we looked at the greatest risk when it comes to alcohol consumption. We asked in the past 30 days, 18% of the population responded that they had 6 or more drinks on one occasion, and the highest prevalence being among males age 18 to 44 at 30%.
Wow. It's incredible to me. And binge drinking is something that I used to do, so I'm very familiar with what that is for sure. It's an incredible number, and it's concerning to me as well when we talk about men, because almost in a lot of the data that's shown in the survey, all the many different categories, there's a lot more of there's a higher rate of men in most of these categories. I think it's like 2 or 3 where women are actually above. So I see it's a health-related issue for men. We've also talked about men being much less likely to get their blood sugar checked and so on. And men seem to be at a much higher risk of disease developing, period. So are there factors pointing as to, why for men are they at such higher risk? Vaping, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I mean, it's crazy to me.
I think for the most part, men in the society, and this is just a stab at it as well, men in the society are self-reliant. You don't ask for help. You've got this, they don't necessarily go for the same checkup. So things progress further before they recognize that they have it because I'm okay, And so I think that has a lot to do with the NCDs, creeping up on them, and them not even noticing, like, I'm just hanging with my buddy, I'm just having an extra drink, whatever, after work, it's a social thing, and that's just how you live, and I'm fine. And so, and then you see the later effects more severe because they're so late to going into getting seen and checked out.
That's so true. And that I'm fine, I think, is something that can resonate with most of us. Yes. I'm fine. Well, we tend to put ourselves last and focus on ourselves when we're really feeling something's going awry. And why not do it from the very beginning and put in the prevention before we even need to find a cure?
Yeah, for sure. That's what we're working towards. Knowledge is power.
How much or how strongly is alcohol consumption linked to other non-communicable health issues such as obesity, hypertension, and diabetes?
Well, it's linked because, alcohol has its levels of sugar. So from an obesity standpoint, for sure, it's in there. And then when we drink a lot, we're slowing our bodies down in that regards. It's just not staying in a healthy environment. And so it does play an increased effect in all of the non-communicable diseases. It's hard, I guess, on our liver as well. So we've seen liver failure because of drinking too much. So yeah, it plays a huge part in it. And that's why it's one of the things that we're looking at eliminating to prevent the non-communicable diseases.
Right. We've all heard, don't drink your calories. That's a major one right there.
Yes.
Which again, and that sugar level in alcohol is absolutely crazy. So I can say for me, when I quit and I was told I was pre-diabetic, I was like, but I don't even drink alcohol. But hold on, I quit with that. So, it's working at things. It doesn't mean my levels went down right away or anything like that. But it shows what a huge contributor to my health it was.
Yeah. And truth be told, if you have someone with like high blood pressure already, 1 to 2 drinks per day can worsen their high blood pressure. We also know that with diabetes, it's going to increase the liver inflammation. It's going to change the fat metabolism in regards to how it's working. And so a lot of times when people do come in, and I know we had that thing with smoking was a small amount said not smoking. Did we have a number for how many people were told to stop drinking if they went to see their doctors?
I don't think I have it. No.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that.
I don't remember seeing it, but it's been interesting to see because yet again, drinking alcohol, they're going to look at it. Is it once a day socially? What is that like? And it's a very thin line between that moderate drinking and going overboard. So we have to watch the social cues in regards to how often we're doing it because it will play an effect. But if you are suffering from one of these disorders, diseases, you want to reduce or eliminate preferably. There's actually new studies out now that says no amount of alcohol is safe either.
Huh.
Very new studies coming out, and they're saying that it also increases your risk for cancers as well. And so that's why I think the whole mocktails are becoming a bigger thing within the younger generations because they're listening, and we're looking for healthier alternatives to that social drinking element. So if I go out and I get a mocktail that looks like a drink, I'm still socially acceptable, but I'm not indulging in the habit that's harmful to my lifestyle, to my life.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. The mocktail thing is interesting because you try to make a better decision and say, I'm going to get a mocktail, and then you find the mocktails. I find in my 5 years here of not drinking alcohol that the mocktail is almost the same price as the alcoholic beverage. And I'm like, but hold on, but I know that I'm paying $10 of this for the alcohol period. So why is it the same? So that for us non-drinkers, that can be a little hard as well.
I know.
Because we want to still enjoy a wonderful, flavorful drink without the alcohol. But price-wise, it's still a little hard for us too.
It is hard, but I mean, I think if I was gonna drink, I would have paid it for the alcoholic beverage just the same. It should be cheaper. I agree with you, but at least I know I'm paying for something less harmful. But I will say, watch your mocktails because they tend to be very sugary.
Yes,
and then you get your calories there again.
Yep, we're drinking our calories one more time. Ginger beer, I found the non-alcoholic ginger beer is a safe bet. That's what I found.
Good to know.
Is there any concerning trends with binge drinking, particularly amongst the younger people?
I think binge drinking on a whole is bad. It doesn't matter whether you're young or you're old. Binge drinking is you're gonna overindulge in it, and it's gonna have the same harmful effect that if you drank every day, a glass here and there, and then you binge drink it, once a month, whatever. You're still doing those harmful things, introducing them into your body, and we don't want to have that happen. You're still putting you at risk of those non-communicable diseases. So I'd say, just avoid binge drinking if at all possible, because it's still harmful for your body.
I would have to agree. I mean, of course, this is coming from somebody who doesn't drink anymore at all. How do we better address the impact alcohol consumption has on our health and community? It is a huge problem, K-Man, when you think about it.
Yeah. We're going to let Novian take that one.
All right, Novian.
Yeah, so I think just being like mindful of like our drinking habits. So I think like when you kind of document like what you're doing, like so if you notice you're drinking like say 2 bottles of like beer, like when are you drinking it, who are you drinking with it, and also how are you feeling, and then if you keep doing that for all of your beverages that you're drinking, then you can kind of like look and see like the trend, like, oh, I tend to like feel sad or unhappy when I'm drinking a glass of wine with like this certain group of friends, and maybe you can just track like what's happening, and then that can kind of give you like being mindful of like what's happening, track it, and then that can help you to make changes to your drinking habits. So I think just being mindful, tracking your daily habits, that can be quite helpful.
Okay, all right. I think anything else about alcohol if you guys want to touch on? Or can we move on to diet?
I think we've covered the main.
Yes.
the main aspect.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on to diet. We're going to take our last commercial break for this segment of the show, and then we're going to talk about the huge major implication to our health, our diet.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
Crime does not pay. The government's official receiver and the Royal Cayman Islands Police are hosting a public auction of high-end electronics and kitchen appliances. This initiative supports the fight against money laundering by removing the benefit of crime. Join us this Saturday, the 14th of March, from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Lions Center. Every bid makes our community safer. Pre-register now at CaymanAuctions.com.
The 8:12 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by CG Britke. Insurance, health, pensions, life, where people come first. Celebrating 50 years of broadcasting in the Cayman Islands. This is Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Welcome back to The Buzz. We are talking about the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey, and in studio with me, I have Chief Nursing Officer Felicia McLean. We have from the Ministry of Health, Policy Support Officer? Yes. I'm trying not to look at my notes. We have Halle Miller and Novian McLean Gregory. And Novian had just joined us around the 8:15 mark, and we are now going to be talking about diet. So I feel like every single day, anything I do, I always hear, well, it's because of your diet, it's what you're eating. So we're constantly told to mind what we eat, and we know that nutrients consumed through eating impact our brain and bodily function. We very much know that, especially talking about health these past few weeks here on The Buzz. What should we be consuming on a daily basis, regardless now? This is for everybody, regardless of size, sex, cultural background, okay? What should our plates look like, an optimal plate?
So if we're thinking about like a plate, circular in size, so what a good diet on a plate would look like is half of that plate being all your greens and leafy vegetables, so like callaloo, pumpkin, lettuce. So half of your plate, that's what should be there. And then a quarter of the plate is your lean protein, so like chicken breast, turkey, beans. And then the final quarter is your healthy starch, so like brown rice, potatoes, whatnot. So that's like a optimum plate. I have a picture right here as well of it, but definitely that's what, regardless of age and sex, that's what it should look like. And there are also like really helpful tools online that can help you to like put together that on your plate, and also kind of know what's good portion sizes, because like even if you're eating like avocado is really really healthy and really good, but too much of it can be also like so managing your portions is also really helpful.
So when we are talking about portion sizes, I've been told like fist, a fist is a good, have some meat that's like the size of your fist, right? But then I'm like, okay, well, if I compare my fist to a larger man, like his fist is a lot bigger. So does that change?
I think that's like the standard like guideline. So think of it as like a guideline, not like a exact, but if like just the average fist size, that's like 1 cup or 1 serving size.
Okay.
So it's just more a guideline.
Okay.
I mean, in a total, you want to have a balance that's adequate, moderate, and diversity. I loved her picture over there, and I'm sorry you guys can't see it, but it's just like when she said half of your plate should be green leafy vegetables and like, whatever. I was like, which Caymanian makes a plate with half green leafy vegetables? And I'm going to share this joke, and my mother-in-law probably hate me afterwards. But I remember after I got married and we were, we went there every Sunday for family dinners, and it would be like, where's the vegetables? It was like you couldn't find it. Like the vegetables was the corn and the potato in the salad. It just wasn't how Caymanians ate, So it's a really interesting and a huge thing we have to work on with our population, because it tended to be very starchy heavy, and your protein and little or no vegetables is kind of the normal Caymanian plate. So
I still see this in a lot of buffet areas. I still see this. There's like no vegetable to grab, and I'm like, and in saying that, 14.2% of the population, according to the report, are not eating any fruits or vegetables at all. What are the consequences of a lifestyle like that?
I mean, we know that our fruits and vegetables have the fiber, it have the vitamins. It's things that we need. It makes our diet balanced. And so when we exclude that, we're not eating a balanced diet, when we're affecting how our body functions and works, in a small, simple way of saying it. And so that is not good. We do need to have it. And it's weird because if you remember, you're growing up, and how many times do we hear, you must eat your peas, you must eat your carrots. But then, how often were we seeing fruit cut up to go with those things? Or, it's just, we're doing better. I think we do better with our smaller kids. And then as we grow, it just kind of
we forget about ourselves.
It withers away.
It brings us back to why aren't we taking care of ourselves? We know what we need to do.
Even at school, I remember my daughter goes to First Baptist, and they have a rule. I think it's like a Wednesday, like every Wednesday you have to bring like fruits. And then you can't have for your morning snack anything that's not a fruit. Like you can't do the carbs and stuff to keep them healthier. And so we know in our minds, and our teachers, and we know what we should be doing, but we're just not doing it.
Right. And I know with Yum that offers the school lunches, that as a parent that you can go on there every single day and pick exactly what your child can eat, and including a lot of fruits and vegetables in there as well, which I think is a huge, great step towards helping your child make healthier decisions when they're at school.
Yeah, we have to give mad props to the Ministry of Education and Department of Education for making sure and putting that policy in place and they've worked with nutritionists, and the meals from Yum are actually sent to the nutritionist every month before they put the menu out to get approved.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm sure I'm supposed to know that, but I think that's amazing. All right, so the report also mentions an increase in consumption of processed foods high in salt. I'm not at all surprised about that, because more and more these days it's a lot more processed food. We know that you can have a career as I don't know what you want to call it, a food scientist, where your job is just to chemically, I want to say chemically induce foods to make them more flavorful. So we keep getting addicted to them and turning back to them. So we know you can have a career just doing that. Yeah. So in saying that, highly processed food, high in salt, we're seeing an increased consumption of that. What the impact does excess sodium have on the body?
Excess sodium causes our body to retain more fluid, more water, and that forces more pressure on our hearts and our kidneys, and it slowly damages our vessels over time. And so we see raised high blood pressure, raised stroke, heart disease, kidney problems, even it affects our stomach in regards to cancer. So when we see that we're eating, and all processed foods have more salt in it to preserve it. And so we definitely, from Cayman's standpoint, because we don't grow enough of our own, it is definitely a huge thing for us in regards to watching how much of those processed things we are eating.
Oh, I don't want to be like, how much salt is too much salt? That's I guess a flavor preference.
Yeah, I think no salt is wonderful, and like a pinch of salt is great. But I don't think it's much more. I mean, I remember making food.
You see my face when you said no salt is wonderful.
I know, but I remember making food for my kids after we breastfed, and then you made your homemade meals, and you didn't want to introduce them to salt too early or those kind of seasonings, so you used a lot of herbs, and the food came out way better with the herb seasoning than it did necessarily needing the salt. But our taste buds are used to having it because we've had it for so long. But truth be told, there are ways to make food taste as good with minimal salt, with a lot of herbs.
Okay.
It's possible.
All right, it's possible. I believe you. I believe you. You make me think of, I'm not even going to go there. I was going to say something that will bring up a whole can of worms when it comes to cooking in different cultures. But I try to use as many seasonings as I can because people like to say the white people don't. We do. I'm trying. So the report also cited the consumer price index for food and non-alcoholic beverages was 5.7% more costly in 2023 than in 2012. Grocery costs have only, than in 2022, not 2012. Grocery costs have only risen since 2022. How much of our dietary patterns are influenced by food availability and pricing, particularly the cost of fresh produce, which we know is only going up?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say this with any certainty. This is not my area for sure. But what I can say as a consumer going to the store, it is a challenge to buy healthier food options just because of the cost of living.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal experience. I know what I spend at the till when I try to buy, strawberries, grapes,
blueberries, don't get me going,
raspberries, and it's just, I'm like, my kids like, please don't eat it all when we come home just on a Saturday. Let it last a couple of days into the week so that, can feel like you're having it more than it. So I do personally feel it. And I'm sure there's many people in our community. And one of this stuff that did come out in regards to the STEP survey was the amount of people that were uninsured or underinsured, and also what their annual income was. I think it was, I don't want to quote the number, but it's I think under 20% of the population earned less than 15,000 for the year. Now you imagine trying to pay rent, pay your health copay for health insurance, and then turn around and, decide, what am I going to pay a bill or am I going to buy fruits and vegetables?
No, I was aghast at that figure actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really concerning to me.
So despite this consumer index price, the amount of money that people are making and what they have available for them to be able to buy healthy options in the store is definitely going to be a challenge.
So there's been some ideas, and I think we see it. I want to say Barbados or something. They're introducing like a sugar tax. Is there any kind of movement or ideas that the ministry is working towards that we can move towards?
I definitely think the idea is there. I know we're working on it. There's so many things we're looking at doing, but it is our hope that we could move towards something like that. There still needs to be a lot more research on how that actually works and how that would work here, and consumer protection, because we could do duty waivers for people to bring things in, but we need to ensure that the consumer is the one that benefits from it. So there are things that we need to look at, but it's been on the table. I think it'll also come out in our national health strategy. You'll probably see that in there as to ways that we feel we should work towards to try and help increase healthier options for people to eat and make it harder for people to get the unhealthy options. So maybe even food labeling in that regards of what's in these products, what's high in sugar, what's high in fats, what's high in salt. So you'd know not to buy that if you could manage to not buy it.
I think that's important. That works on me. Again, packaging, yes, visuals very much work on me. So I agree with you that I would like to see a little bit more of that, especially the nutrition labeling and menus and whatnot. That also works on me. So it would be great to see that in Cayman. We've got to wrap up. So I've got a kind of a final question here, and it's just want to tie it to obesity here. So we know that one of the most alarming statistics that came out of this report is that 70% of Cayman's population is overweight or obese. So how serious is that statistic? And when we're looking at BMI, how does it relate to BMI, obesity and BMI?
So in a nutshell, BMI is going to look at our weight and our height and give us an idea overall of how we're doing. It's not a perfect screening tool because it doesn't take in the factors of muscle versus of fat in that regards. However, it is still a good tool to use to look for things like cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, musculoskeletal disorders. So what I would say is we should know our numbers. So that's one of the things we're going to do. This is a step into wellness, and we're looking at the STEP survey so that people will understand their why. We are going to launch a national movement challenge so that we can help people get healthier, when we can look at reducing hopefully that overweight or obese. But we need to know our numbers. We need to know what that BMI is. We need to know what our blood pressures and cholesterol levels are so that we know what we're working towards, and we can set our targets and our goals as a population to move into a healthier state of living.
Okay, all right. And right at that moment, we hit the 9 a.m. headline news. So I've got to stop right now. Thank you, ladies, for joining me this morning. And
thanks for having us.
No problem. It was our third interview talking in depth about the data that's come out with the 2023 STEPS National Health Survey. It's been a pleasure having you and getting this information out and discussing it more in depth. And we'll be back on next Tuesday as well.
Yep.
So I'm going to save what that topic is for I'll tease it maybe later this week. But we'll be back discussing the report again next Tuesday. And just after the 9 a.m. headline news, I'll be welcoming Doctors Hospital. We're going to talk a little bit about colon cancer. It is Colon Cancer Awareness Month.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The headline news is brought to you by Kirk Market and Health Services Authority.
The next phase of the East-West Arterial Expansion Project is expected to start in September. The infrastructure minister told MPs in Parliament the National Roads Authority is on track to start survey work in April, with the final gazette being presented to Cabinet, quote, shortly, in anticipation of the work starting in September. In international news, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said today will be the, quote, most intense of the U.S. strikes on Iran. He said at a Pentagon news conference, quote, the most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Hegseth also says Iran has fired the fewest number of missiles in a 24-hour period since the war began. People in Tehran tell the BBC of the impact of the U.S.-Israeli strikes, with one saying, quote, they hit hard last night. All you can see in our house are cracks in the walls. On Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump said the war was, quote, very far ahead of schedule and, quote, very complete, pretty much. The price of oil, which had surged past $100 a barrel on Monday, dipped closer to $90 after his remarks. Meanwhile, the UK says it is readying a naval ship, the RFA Lime Bay, in case it's needed to help out in the eastern Mediterranean. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman. More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
At HSA, we strive to provide the highest standard of care with compassion, integrity, and dedication. And so we say thank you, Cayman, for continuing to make us the most awarded organization on island by voting us the best of Cayman Islands in 9 medical categories. Your support reminds us why we do what we do, to serve the Cayman community with kindness and excellence. To find out more about our award-winning services, visit hsa.ky. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning and welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller. And in this segment of the show, we are talking about colon cancer. It is Colon Cancer Awareness Month. And this is a cancer that is very, I don't want to say dear to me, but as our listeners know, some of our listeners know, some of my friends out there listening, my colleagues know that in December, my own brother died of colon cancer. If you remember some of my stories talking about screening, I spoke about being screened a couple years ago for colon cancer as well. So maybe in the conversation we'll bring that up of what my experience was like, because I know for a lot of people the prep for that can be daunting, and I have a secret for you all, so I'll share that. But to tell us a lot more about colon cancer and about urgent care at Doctors Hospital, I'm welcoming Dr. Darley Solomon, Chief of Surgery, and they have him listed here as AKA Mr. Nobody Should Die of Colon Cancer, and also Dr. Richard Preece, Medical Director. So good morning and welcome to The Buzz.
Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, listening audience.
It's good to have you guys on, so thank you for joining me. And we're just going to go get straight into colon cancer. So it used to be thought of as a disease for older adults, and we are seeing and hearing of a lot more people in their 30s, 40s, even 20s being diagnosed with colon cancer. So should we be paying more attention in earlier years?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the statistics from about 2013 to 2022 have shown that we've been really good at identifying colon cancer earlier in people over the age of 65. But what it's also shown is that under the age of 65, where it's been increasing, epidemic might be a little strong, but significantly increasing, such that if you were born around 1990, you have 2 times the risk of developing colon cancer as if somebody born in 1950.
Wait, why? That's such a crazy stat.
Well, the same risk factors apply: diet, processed meats, lack of exercise, and genetics plays a small role as well. But suffice it to say that there's still research going on, but it's scientific data that says people under the age of 50 are getting colon cancer. As a matter of fact, strong enough that the recommendation is that they moved down in 2018. They moved the recommendation for a colonoscopy at age 50 to age 45.
To age 45, is that a good age, or should it be younger still? Do you feel? You're seeing?
Inevitably it will drop down because it does save lives.
Dr. Preece, I feel like
Yeah,
I can see you wanting to say
it's a
something.
certainty. I mean, Dr. Solomon's sort of hit the nail on the head there. We've always thought about colorectal cancer as something that affects older people, and for the most part that remains true. But this shift in the presentations to include a younger population is really something that we all need to be aware of. It's not just a disease of the over 70s, the over 80s anymore. So I think we will see that shift in screening. A key message there is go for the screening. That's the key thing. Is that and in my own family, my wife's family have a very strong history of colorectal cancer. Her dad, her uncle, other members of the family, and therefore Helen has to be screened pretty frequently as a result of that. But this is something that people need to be aware of. Go for the screening, and when you do present early, and this is the case in Helen's dad, where they found it very early on, you have definitive treatment, and then he gets on with the rest of his life, and that's key. So it's delayed diagnoses that create these family tragedies.
Yeah. So
that's why we need to be talking about it, and let's face it, there are bits about talking openly with friends and family about testing your poo and getting ready for a colonoscopy. These are uncomfortable subjects, but they're also important subjects, and we need to make ourselves a little bit uncomfortable sometimes to make sure that we get our friends, family screened where it's appropriate to do so, and ourselves, and that's why we're here today.
I'd have to agree with you with the early screenings for sure. With my brother, he was in his mid-40s when he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and that so that it did hit him earlier, and he waited a good year or so, maybe a little longer than a year. He had really bad symptoms for that time, a lot of really bad stomach issues and blood and stool as well for a year, and didn't get it checked out. And I mean, to me, that's the most obvious sign of something really wrong, blood in the stool for me. And it frustrated me so much because it was like, well, if you had just gone in earlier, right when you were seeing these things, maybe you'd be alive today, right? So I think that's really important when it comes to symptoms. Can you tell us what symptoms people should be looking out for colon cancer?
Well, unfortunately, sometimes there's no symptoms, and certainly you mentioned blood. Blood is a red flag, literally. You can, even in younger individuals, you can assume that it's hemorrhoids, but I was taught and trained, if you assume it's hemorrhoids, you make an ass out of you and me.
Mm-hmm.
If you see blood, you need to get it checked out. You need to take it seriously because it could be colon cancer. And the key is that the younger individuals are developing a more aggressive type of colon cancer for whatever reason. So if it's diagnosed at a younger age, and sometimes they're diagnosed later because they don't think, it's not on their agenda. They don't think I'm at risk for colon cancer.
Right.
Most people walking around at 40 years old don't even think about colon cancer. Well, I'm here to tell you, you need to start thinking about it because it's real. It's when I'm telling you that people in the age born in the 1990s have 2 times the risk of developing colon cancer as somebody born in 1950, and 4 times the risk of developing rectal cancer as somebody born in 1950. That's significant.
That is huge to me. And you said it's more aggressive now in younger people?
It seems that cancers in general, when they're diagnosed in younger people, are typically more aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain logic around that where, cancers for the most part are diseases of aging. And if you go 80, 90 years before a presentation, then it's probably a more kind of like a more gentle growing tumour.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting it in your 20s and 30s, it's probably more aggressive, and we see that very frequently. It's not unique to colorectal cancer. We see that with other common cancers like prostate cancer in the men and breast cancer in women. Early presentation is often associated with a more aggressive tumour, but the reality there is that almost always where you identify cancer at a very, very early stage through screening processes, then you can have definitive treatment and, as I say, get on with the rest of your life. And that's really key, is that quite a number of people are a bit scared of getting the diagnosis.
Yeah.
But actually, please don't be, because actually there are definitive treatments for these things. And certainly in the case of colorectal cancer, having a polyp removed, catching it when it's very early, these are curative treatments. And if you leave it late and it's spread, then that's a much more difficult disease to manage medically. So this is about get screened and do it early, and don't worry about that diagnosis. Worry about not being diagnosed if you've got it.
What kind of screening processes are there? Because the screening I did was a colonoscopy, right? But then I'm understanding that there's also like take-home test kits that you can do. I don't know if that's available in Cayman. So can you explain the screening processes?
I've heard that, and you're probably speaking of something along the lines of Cologuard, and that it is a good test. By far, colonoscopy is still the gold standard in terms of diagnosing a polyp, which can potentially develop into a cancer, and removing it at the time of the procedure. So it's definitely unchallenged as the gold standard. But the fecal immunohistochemical tests, such as like Cologuard, can identify cancers. The sensitivity is about 95% and the specificity about 95%. What does that mean? It means that if it tells you that you have colon cancer, they're 95% confident that you have colon cancer. The sensitivity in terms of if it tells you that 95% that you don't have it, you can rely on it 95%. So it's not fail-proof, but if you're not doing a colonoscopy, by all means, at least have your stool checked to see if there's occult blood in it.
Okay, we got to go to a quick commercial break right now, but when we come back, I'm going to be talking about the prep. So when it comes down to getting ready to have your colonoscopy, you have to go through a bit of a procedure to get ready for that. So we'll get into those details right after the commercial break.
Where your group works can have many sounds, telephones ringing, machines humming, or even waves crashing. But no matter what sounds your group hears when they're working, BAF Insurance has a health insurance plan for your group. You can always count on BAF for affordable, flexible group and individual health insurance plans with professional, friendly customer service. We are BAF. Call us at 949-5089. Your health is our priority.
The 7 a.m. Sports Report, brought to you by Dr. Wayne Porter, offering a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. Call 946-9020 to book your appointment today.
Follow Radio Social media, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Interact with our talk shows on YouTube. Download our official Radio K-Man app, or you can log on to our website, www.radiokman.gov.ky. You can also add us to WhatsApp
on 925-3261.
All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Radio K-Man. The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Welcome back to The Buzz. We are talking about Colon Cancer Awareness Month, and I have with me from Doctors Hospital, I have Dr. Darlie Solomon, Chief of Surgery, and Dr. Richard Preece, Medical Director at Doctors Hospital. So we were talking about what some of the symptoms are for colon cancer. Now, when people know that they want to get screened, and they have to go through a prep process. So for me, I had to go to the doctors and say, get recommended to a specialist, and the specialist, and it's going to absolutely drive me nuts that I forget my doctor's name right now, because he was so good and I'd love to big him up. But he said, okay, you got to take this this liquid, you got to drink it every once in a while. You can't eat for 24 hours, which to me was the worst part for me was not eating. And the horror stories that I've heard from people about the prep, because the liquid that you're supposed to drink is absolutely supposed to clean your body out. Your colon's supposed to be completely spotless, right? Pretty much. And my prep was so easy that I thought something was wrong, that I was doing it wrong, that it wasn't working on me, whatever it was, because, I would hear from friends that it's
tough.
Yeah, I don't even want to scare people away from doing it, because you got to do it. You want to do it. But my secret was using CMOS gel, which we just spoke about in the break. And this is not medical advice whatsoever. I'm not at all a doctor, and I can't give the advice. But for me, it really helped, you could say, clean my body out, because I was taking it already for the month. So just a spoonful of CMOS gel every day. And it completely helped. My prep was nothing. It was the easiest prep in the world. But when it comes to prep, what do people go through?
Well, the hard part is, as you said, you can't eat any solid food for 24 hours. And then you do have to drink about, well, there are different preps too. There's preps where you can take one glass of a laxative, but you have to be diligent about following that with additional fluids, because you don't want to be dehydrated. That especially if you've got some comorbidities like diabetes or hypertension, which a significant number of our population have. So certainly kidney issues as well. So you have to kind of be judicious about it. But most people on average can take the prep. It does result in you having diarrhea. That's the only way to get your colon, which is like a sewer line of your body, cleaned out. But I feel like you haven't had the prep that Dr. Solomon uses. So maybe the next time we can do a little study and compare the CMOS to the Marilax prep.
I still use the prep. I still use the regular prep that of course I did that, but I knew that the CMOS gel for me had already cleaned my body out so much, or my colon so much.
I mean, it's really important that people understand that what you're trying to do with the colonoscopy is look at the inside of the colon, look at the bowel, see if there's any lumps and bumps there, polyps we call them, and therefore you want a nice clean set of tubes, and that's why you do the prep. So it's really purposeful and important, and then you can see clearly. So when Dr. Solomon or Dr. Joy are doing those colonoscopies, you've got a clear bowel wall you can look at. And one of the reasons why colonoscopy is so valuable is that if they do see something that doesn't look quite right, it can be dealt with at the time.
Yes.
So that's the advantage that colonoscopy has over other forms of preliminary screening, which is that you can do definitive treatment whilst you're at it, but you want to be able to see what you're doing, and so it's clear out the tubes.
Because if it's not clear, we can't go through with the surgery, and we do not want to go through the prep a week later if we don't need to, right?
No, you just want to do that one time, and if you're lucky, you get to do it one time every 10 years or so.
Right. Well, for me, for my screening, because as I said, my brother had it, and my dad also had colon cancer, so it was a thought that it could be a genetic thing, but you now, Kathy, have to get tested a little earlier because of the immediate family members. I still don't know if it's a genetic thing. That somehow didn't get tested. But when I went through my colonoscopy, I was 43. Do you know what the recommended age for women is? Is it 45
it's
now?
It's still 45.
45? What did it used to be? 50. So I went up 43. I had 3 polyps removed. And the doctor said, one of them was 1 centimeter, and said if I waited 1 more year, which I already waited 3 years, mind you, to go and do this, it would have been full-out blown colon cancer.
Right.
So we cut out the 3 right away. I was happy. I was like done and dusted. I got to go back now this year for another screening. So when you do have genetics that play a factor, when you have had polyps removed, there's a recommendation to go back every few years. Is there anything else somebody like me in my position should be doing to try to hopefully prevent any more polyps?
Well, there's a lot of studies, and some have recommended that there's some supplements you can take. Certainly a multivitamin every day or every other day provides you with some minerals that may be preventative, calcium, folate. There's also new information that turmeric may have a beneficial effect. Quercetin, which is something that's usually found in garlic and onions, may have a beneficial effect.
Quercetin?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't heard this yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's kind of the jury's out on aspirin. It was in favor that a baby aspirin a day was protective, and now the information is sort of being reevaluated. But certainly I wouldn't recommend anybody do any supplements without having a discussion with their doctor to make sure that it's not going to have any adverse effect on you.
So when I say CMOS gel, make sure we check in with our doctor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the other point you make there is really important as well, is that there can be a familial tendency. Your genes matter, and if you've got close family members, and particularly multiple family members that have been treated for bowel cancer, then irrespective of your age, you don't wait till 45. You have a conversation with your physician about when's the right time for you to be investigated. So routine screening, 45. But if you've got that strong family history, then there's a conversation to be had with your colonoscopist or your usual family physician and say, when's the right time for me? Because you don't want to just sort of wait around until suddenly your magical 45th birthday comes up. With a strong family history, there's a conversation to be had much earlier.
Right, I agree with you. The guidelines don't pertain to you once you have a family history, I would say.
No, and the guidelines do acknowledge the fact that for those people who've got a familial predisposition, it seems, that we need to, flex the arrangements to make sure that they're screened at an appropriate early age.
Okay. So I understand that a lot of people avoid colonoscopies because they're embarrassed. They're nervous about it. What are some options available for them, or how do we try to get past the stigma that could be involved with colonoscopies?
Well, a lot of communities do colon cancer screening campaigns, and this is colorectal cancer month, and so it's an opportune time to have this this discussion. And as a matter of fact, I'm passionate about this. I've been talking about no one should die of colon cancer for 10 years now, and I know I've saved lives just from having people come in and do colonoscopies. I typically do a talk with the Lions Club at their PACE event. So it's important to get the message out. And as a matter of fact, we have felt so passionate about it that we've allocated a certain amount of time during this month where if you're concerned, if you just need to talk about somebody and find out, okay, do I need to have a colonoscopy? We're available, Dr. Troy and myself, to have that discussion with you. And it's important. And that's our service to the community, because we feel so passionately about this. And we know that, as you said, you had a polyp 1 centimeter removed. 2 centimeters, that's probably going to have a cancer in it. So the discussion needs to be had. The more people we can have this conversation with, the more lives we're going to save, the better we're going to make this community.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the more we normalize the conversation, I can talk about my experience and share that and not be embarrassed or feel like I have to make it private, because it completely affected me. It affects families. It affects so many of us. The more I think that we can share these stories and make it relatable and real, the more I think people will take action.
You're going to save lives. Somebody's going to hear that story of your brother dying at age 51, being diagnosed in his 40s, probably had it for 5 years or more before then. Somebody it's going to hit. So getting back to blood's a red flag. But if you're having severe pain, if you're having pain or discomfort, bloating, change in bowel habits, everybody has a little upset tummy every now and then. Mm-hmm. But if it's going on for 2 to 3 weeks, you need to see your physician and get it checked out.
I think the other thing is that we know that people might feel mildly embarrassed about these procedures, but we've had plenty of our own staff who've had colonoscopies at our hospital. Their privacy, their dignity, the same for every person that comes is really key. And that the whole colonoscopy team are really thinking about how do we look after that person as if it was somebody who's really close to them. So we take a really enormous amount of pride in making sure that we protect people's privacy and dignity and treat them with the utmost respect at all times, because we know it's not something you necessarily want to be doing, mm-hmm. but you know that you need to be doing it. So let's make sure that you're properly cared for, and that's a really key thing for us. Treat everybody as if they're a member of our family.
Yes, I think that's a great thing, very important thing. And for me, I guess I'm like, you're knocked out. It's you don't even know what's happening. So for me, I take that as I don't even know what happened. I was knocked out. I get to go in under anesthesia, which I love. It might sound crazy, but I love the effects of it, how it feels.
Best sleep you
it's
ever
the best
had.
part. Yes, and everybody always says after colonoscopy, it's literally the best sleep that you've ever had. So I can't remember what mine was like, but I want to ask a question when it comes to diets, because my family is Eastern European, so the sausages, those meats, the cold cuts, that kind of thing was very, very, salamis was very, very, very common. Yet I'm understanding that a lot of like the salamis and sausages are full of carcinogens and are a leading factor as to why people can develop colon cancer when it comes to their food consumption. So does diet really, really play a part, and does it matter culturally? Because Eastern Europe, sausage, salamis, meats are very, very common.
Diet absolutely plays a part. 1/3 of cancers can be traced back to dietary measures. So typically for colon cancer, we recommend a high fiber diet, fiber low in red meat and low in processed meats. My third grader tells me she's got to eat the rainbow. So she's colors, she's vegetables, orange and yellow and red and green. So a diverse plant-based diet. I mean, they have blue zones all over the world where people live to be over 100, and they find that most of them have like a Mediterranean-type diet, which is heavier on the fruits and vegetables, lower on meat. I'm probably higher on a fish, and low protein or low red meat diet.
I feel you on that, but also the thing about the Mediterranean diet, the real Mediterranean lifestyle, actually very much involves those salami meats. This is my family's diet.
Well, except for the process.
Yeah, except for the process, which for me, I've tried to cut that out as much as I can.
What's for sure, though, is even eating a really healthy diet doesn't take away the need for screening.
Right.
And that's the key, is that, of course, if you have an unhealthy diet, you might be more at risk. But having a healthy diet doesn't eliminate the risk.
Right.
So you still need your occasional colonoscopy and the preparation that goes with that.
And diet and exercise go hand in hand, right? Limit alcohol consumption. Everything in moderation.
And my man, in our earlier segment, saying those same things: diet, limit alcohol consumption, limit tobacco use, exercise. Yeah. It's those risk factors that all of us can kind of have a look at in our life. We're coming to the end of the show right now, so I know we're going to talk about urgent care. We don't have time to go into that right now, but I do just want to go back to the complimentary colon cancer screenings that you're doing. If you can tell our listeners just a little bit more about that, what it includes, who should consider taking advantage of it, and how they can.
Well, it's open for everybody. If it's crossed your mind, you probably need to take advantage of it. And I'm sure you can go to the website and Doctor's Hospital, and there'll be some pathway directing you to that. Otherwise, if you've got a pen handy, you can call Cheryl, my nurse, 914-6409, and to try to set up an appointment where we can have a conversation. And I imagine that even if I like to do things in a face-to-face manner to get a history and understand what we're dealing with, but just call that number and we'll get you in. We'll treat you like family.
Okay. Dr. Preece, anything from you?
No, I want to say thank you to you
No
for sharing your story. I think that'll be very inspiring for the listeners, and it's such a poignant reminder of how important this is. So thank you for letting us come and talk to the audience this morning about this. We are offering these mini appointments with Dr. Choi and Dr. Solomon through this month, so people can get more advice about what colonoscopy entails and learn a bit more about colorectal cancer if necessary. And I'd encourage people to take up the opportunity. They're there to educate and to improve awareness. And if it means that one more person gets screened and we identify one more polyp that we wouldn't otherwise have identified, it's all been worthwhile.
Absolutely. I think it's incredible that you're offering these free screenings. So I think it's great. Can you repeat that number for your nurse one more time?
914-6409.
914-6409. That is for Dr. Solomon's nurse, Cheryl, if you'd like to make an appointment to get the colon screening.
And if there's a preference for Dr. Choi, we can connect you with Dr. Choi as well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen.
We've got you covered.
Excellent. Thank you, doctors, for joining us this morning. I appreciate it, taking the time and speaking to me what's a very important disease that I don't, want any of us to die from. So I'm with you. Prevention is better than cure, so take advantage of those screenings from Doctor's Hospital for colon cancer this month. Thanks for hanging out with me on The Buzz. I will be back with you on Thursday.
The Buzz is proudly sponsored by Cayman Insurance Center, specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services. And Kirk Market, experience a world of choice. And Automotive Art Cayman, your car, our passion. And by Dorman Day, celebrating 10 years of